Okay, so Zohran Mamdani just made history as New York City's first South Asian mayor, right? But what's really turning heads is that he won 61% of the black vote. Even after months of headlines claiming he forgot about black people, that's a major swing. Early on, he struggled to connect, right? Many black voters wasn't really feeling him like that, especially after it came out that he once checked black or African American on a college form. That rubbed folks wrong because it felt like identity politics being used as a costume. Then came a deeper concern, right? Was he really listening to black communities or just talking about them? Some leaders thought his agenda, especially things like police reform and socialist-style housing proposals, sounded good on paper but didn't match the reality of what working-class black families deal with day to day. Safety, jobs, rent, that's the language that we speak. But here's where the turnaround happened. Mamdani did something a lot of candidates don't do once they get called out, right? He showed up. He went to Harlem, Bed-Stuy, South Jamaica. He talked to folks in churches and barbershops, block parties. He stood next to people like Al Sharpton and Letitia James, and he listened. He started connecting the dots between his policies and what black New Yorkers have been fighting for: ownership, equity, and justice. By election day, that effort paid off. Black voters, especially young black voters, came out for him. 84% of the young black voters rolled with him. That's not luck, y'all. That is because of his engagement. Now, let's be real. This doesn't mean that every black voter trusts him yet. Some still see him as an outsider. Some see him as a risk. But politically speaking, this was a turning point. Black voters once again became a deciding factor in shaping the direction of America's biggest city. And that's the part that we cannot overlook. Every time black folks organize and vote with purpose, we shift the balance of power from New York to Georgia to the White House. So the real question is this: did Mamdani truly earn the black vote, or did he just borrow it for now? Because if he doesn't deliver on his promises, affordable housing, safer streets, fair jobs, and community investment, that same coalition that built him up could turn on him just as fast. So we just got to make sure that we pay attention, not to who just talks our language, but to who actually walks the walk.
Hi lovelies, how you all doing? Welcome back again to my channel. My name is Olivia and thank you so much for your massive love and support. So family, apparently New York was built by black Americans. Yes, let me correct you on that, Zora. Okay, so during his speech he said that New York was built by immigrants. Then if New York was built by immigrants, who built America? A separate person built a separate people built New York and different people built America. Anyways, let's come to that. So New York, I think, have most populated immigrants living there. So for you, Zora, to come and say it was built by immigrants and then erasing the main people who built the whole country, that's insane. Black Americans supported you, during your election, because they love what you do, because they love how you speak. But then you coming to say immigrants built New York and leaving behind the main people who built the country with their sweat, tears, and everything. I think it's disrespectful. Okay, we as Africans, we as immigrants, no matter where you're from, as far as you're living in America, you should know that the country you are living in, the country you are chasing their wealth, was built by black Americans. Okay, I hope you understood and I hope you heard that clear. So always appreciate the people who built the country. Okay, so let's watch together, family. Keep watching, of course. Let's hear what more people have to say about this Zora, saying immigrants built New York, and him even coming up to say that he's African American. That's crazy. And we'll come back after a while, so stay with me, family.
Who built New York City? New York's new mayor, Zohran Mamdani. I probably butchered it, so I apologize. I was with his speech and everything he had going all the way up until he said New York City was built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and now ran by immigrant, whatever the hell. Get that part? But it was not built by immigrants. It was built by enslaved Black Americans. Let's not erase history. And this be my issue sometimes when immigrants get in power. It's like y'all want to erase the history and the foundation of America. And it kind of annoys me sometimes because it's just like you could have said built by enslaved Africans, developed by immigrants. He said nothing about American citizens at all in the ending of that speech at all. He gave all the credit to immigrants. And New York City does have the highest population of immigration. Definitely understand that it is a multicultural city. That's what makes New York what it is. Definitely love that, but let's not discredit people. Let's not discredit actual American citizens, okay? I don't know. Y'all could chew me up in the comments, but I just pay attention to little stuff like that. And yeah, I just wasn't feeling that part. So, And I did do my research on him, and I see that he was campaigning in clubs and churches. He was campaigning to Jews. Like, he was hitting every corner, Caribbeans, Latinos, Black Americans. He has been hitting every corner of campaigning. But let's be real. We know how campaigning works. You got to get people on your team. I'll continue to do more research on him because I don't know too much about him. And, yeah, I don't know. It's just something a little, I don't know. And just an FYI, Black Americans are not immigrants to America. Okay?
Last night, Zohran Mamdani had his victory speech, and he made some Black Americans cringe because he was talking about how New York was built by immigrants. Hold on, let me show you.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
So there were some Black Americans that took offense to this because, Black Americans are routinely left out of the conversation when it comes to building America. And a lot of people, especially people who are immigrants and who are in the political sphere, Obama has done it before, talk about how this country was built on immigrants, and immigrants are the ones who built this country, when Black Americans are not immigrants. It's like they always are either taking us for granted or just conveniently leaving us out. So I understand that, and I feel that same way. Although with this speech, I didn't really get that. I listened to the whole speech, and while I understand the sentiment of my fellow Black Americans, I also understand what Zohran was trying to say. And before that, in the speech, he had said that he wanted to make a New York the city that could be affordable to all the Black American women who had, well, he didn't say Black American, he just said Black women, but, Black with a capital B, that have been let go from federal jobs by Trump. And he also said this.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
He said, turn the volume up, which I have to think that he was referencing KRS-One, great Black American rapper from the 80s and 90s. So he said, turn the volume up, the devil's time is up. So I gotta think he was referencing that. And he also used hip hop a lot during the campaign. Remember when he went to the Wu-Tang concert and spoke to the Wu and, Jadakiss and Styles P and Killer Mike? Like, he used Black American culture as a way to forward his campaign throughout the entire campaigns. I understand why people might be reluctant to take him on. I'm going to be watching from New Jersey and hoping for the best.
I want to talk about the myth that immigrants built America, that immigrants built New York City, and that everyone that is in America is an immigrant, because it's not true.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
that eliminates the story of those formerly enslaved people and products of that enslavement, like myself. There's been a concerted effort to eliminate Black Americans from the conversation of their impact and importance in the way that this country was built and developed, but with free labor from my ancestors. I'm really glad that Zohran Mamdani is the mayor of New York City. I did my part to campaign for him and boost his messaging, and the fact that I thought he would make a good mayor on this page and very loudly on social media. But that doesn't abscond him from critique. Black Americans versus immigrants, and how these two aren't the same, and how it is imperative that we understand the difference when talking about the development of this nation and what that means for history and what that means for our present and our future. New York was not a city built solely by immigrants. New York was a city founded by European settlers and developed initially by the work of enslaved Black people. In the early days of New York City, Black people cleared the land, built roads, built the initial buildings, built Wall Street, built the first city hall. They built the first city ports. And Black people were vital to the success of the early days of New York City, working in various arenas such as artisans, domestic servants. Black people are pivotal to the development of this nation, full stop. And without Black Americans, no immigrant would be allowed to come here, especially no immigrant who is Black, brown, or any of the above. So when you have immigrants who are able to come to America, and they came in waves in New York. So New York was developed by immigrants as well, and immigration as well, but those waves were allowed by the development and work of Black Americans. So you have a group of people who built the country, were enslaved in this country for centuries before any immigrants came, and those immigrants are allowed to do things and being propped up over in spite of Black Americans. So when you have immigrants that come here and they're able to succeed, they're not coming with the weight or baggage of being the product of slavery here. They then turn around and look down on Black Americans or say, why can't you do what we did? Or Black Americans are lazy, but you do not understand what it means to be Black American in America. And Zohran, I've seen your team. I don't think I've seen any Black people on your team. And I hope you get someone who's Black from New York, and hopefully a Black woman, to make sure you are touching every part of the city. And that includes Black Americans who are foundational to that city, not just all the immigrant populations. Even though we all live amongst each other, and New York is New York because of the diversity, there needs to be an effort to ensure that we are not eliminating Black Americans from the conversation, because without Black Americans, they would not be in America, and they would definitely not be in New York City. Congratulations once again on winning the race. I think you're going to be a phenomenal mayor. I just think this is something you need to think about, and it's something that needed to be addressed and something that's brought to your attention.
He didn't mention African Americans because he doesn't think they exist or think they're important. That's why he didn't mention them in his speech. African Americans have been in New York since the 1600s. And as someone who is a third generation New Yorker, half of my family coming during the Great Migration in the 1940s, and the other half of my family being there since the late 1700s, we don't be there no more. We've been gutted out of our communities. We've been kicked out of our communities. We have been impoverished. Most of the people you see who are black on the street of New York are African American. They're African American. Why do you think that is? It's by design. That is by design. We can get into the whole historics of like why that is, the structural disenfranchisement of African Americans, of course, because we're owed a big motherfucking bill, and there's just feelings of if we get an actual power, not manicured power, but actual power, we're gonna get our lick back. And at this point in time, after the stunts y'all been playing with us, but to be real, like China's about to put y'all in check anyway, so I don't even think we need to do anything. But yeah, this stunt is just, they love to do this thing where they get like the bourgeois, they get like because something right now in U.S. politics, we really are trying to create some sort of relationship to India, probably for the labor force, because Latin America is resisting, as we see what's happening in Venezuela. And do you know who taught them how to do that resistance in Latin America and get their independence? Haiti. And who's really tied up in Haiti? The Clintons, right? Oh, shouldn't say that. And the Democrats. The Democrats are very tied up in maintaining the suppression of the global South. So what they do is they import the upper class from the global South and cosplay them as people of, quote unquote, people of color, a model minority, whatever. But really, they wear the skin of African Americans. They wear the history of African Americans, and then they erase them in the same breath. So that's what that is. And that's why Zohran Mamdani acted the way he did and did not include them. And he was definitely going to be a part of the continued gutting of African Americans in Bed-Stuy and in Harlem. Yeah. They moved all the African Americans actually into the housing projects, but I have a feeling that all the housing projects are about to be fully Latin American, fully Hispanic right now. So my little bit of advice for the Hispanic community, you're next. So they're going to go after the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans next. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Like, it's just going to happen. To make way, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked that underneath Zohran Mamdani, they make way for artist housing in the housing projects. Or they renovate the housing projects for artist housing, which then there's going to be white people living in the projects soon. Just be prepared for it. But yeah, I'm just straight up pissed. Because also there's a layer of this where people are like, African Americans are dumb. A lot of people think African Americans are dumb, and they think African Americans don't know what is going on. That's why African Americans have to do this extreme kind of performance of being bourgeois and being intelligent and being so well read and academic, because people inherently think we don't know what the fuck happened to us. So we have to theorize our degradation. That is African American studies. That is any sort of humanities theory in relationship to the plight of African Americans. That is Afro-pessimism. We have to theorize our degra motherfuckadation to be considered a breathing human being. Anyway.
You dumb fucks, because he is. Do you not realize that people can be multiple things at once? He was born in Uganda, which is in, say it with me, Africa. So since he was born in Africa and raised there until he was 7, in which he moved to the United States and is now a citizen, that would make him African American.
It's really important that white creators who have previously demonstrated a lack of understanding about Black identity and Black history to stop touching this conversation. Here at the Down Ballot, we love us some Zohran Mamdani. We canvassed for him really early on in his campaign and have also been supporting him since he was an assembly member. We acknowledge this is a hit piece of the New York Times that holds no merit, but we can also acknowledge that the creators of such a hit piece know that Black identity is so deeply misunderstood. They know the conversation will take on a life of its own as people say the wrong thing. Calling Zohran Mamdani African American is playing right into their hands. I'm of Kenyan descent. I became a citizen actually the same year that Zohran Mamdani did, and I've always called myself Kenyan American after receiving my American citizenship. I knew from a very early age that I was not African American because that detailed a specific kind of history that wasn't mine. To be African American is to be a U.S. descendant of chattel slavery from the transatlantic slave trade. If you were born in Africa and then moved to the United States as an immigrant, you are insert country American. Zohran Mamdani is Ugandan American, and insisting that he's African American is yet another way in which so many leftists think that it's acceptable to trample over African American identity in order to move towards a specific goal. There's also a critical nuance many of you are missing when it comes to the presence of South Asian people in East Africa, a presence that has a lot to do with white supremacy and slavery. Yes, we're going there, but first taking this quick intermission to talk about 2 ways that you can help protect your community as you wait for Zohran Mamdani to win the general election. Both are linked in our bio. Number 1, understand the impact of the so-called Big Beautiful Bill by sending this USA Facts article to your friends and your family. It breaks down in simple language what got funding and what got cut so that you can better understand how the next decade is going to unfold, with the most immediate impact being, of course, the extra funding to ICE made possible by the cutting of your healthcare access. That brings us to article number 2. This is a call by Nurses United to stop putting patients' lives at risk by overworking nurses, a problem that will be worsened by the cuts to healthcare. Click the link in our bio to find out how you can support their fight for reform. Your life literally depends on the well-being of your medical care provider. Thank you so much. Now back to the rest of the video. The Indian Ocean slave trade brought many South Asians to East Africa as merchants. We're talking about the 7th century. And then hundreds of years later, during colonialism, the British brought South Asian laborers into East Africa to build the East African Railway. Although they were brought as victims of colonialism, they were elevated over the indigenous Black population. That elevation allowed many South Asians to have access to resources and wealth-building mechanisms that were not given to the Black indigenous populations. As a result, when you look up some of the richest people in East Africa, they're of South Asian descent, a legacy that Mamdani's family definitely benefited from. Store that in your mind, and then fast forward to his campaign, which received a lot of criticism for not doing enough outreach to Black communities. We know that part of this was due to many Black establishment leaders already being loyal to Cuomo, but there were also just very many Black neighborhoods that weren't canvassed and weren't reached. A lot of Mamdani's focus was on reaching the South Asian community, and even the advocacy that he is very, very well known for is about Palestine, but not much about Congo or Sudan.
As a Congolese American, I thought surely he has something to say about the genocide that's happening on the continent that he was born. A genocide that is fueling global tech innovation, weapons manufacturing, destroying the second lungs of the world, the Congo rainforest, with rapid climate degradation, and in some cases single-handedly enriching the 1% billionaire class that he's going to be taxing to pay for his platform. But I wasn't able to find anything significant, and it's quite ironic that someone who was named after Kwame Nkrumah would be following along this same trend, because it was Nkrumah who told us if we allow the independence of Congo to be compromised in any way by imperialists and colonialists, the whole of Africa will be at great danger.
So mix all this together, and then y'all are here calling him African American. That doesn't make much sense, does it? In fact, it's incredibly insulting that y'all would dare call him African American. If anything I said in this video was new information to you, including the history of South Asians in East Africa, please do not touch this subject with a 10-foot pole. What you can do, though, is go to the link in our bio and send the 2 articles that we mentioned to all your friends, your family members, and anybody who cares about what's to come. We have to get prepared, and that starts with education, knowing what to prepare for. See you there. Bye.
So I'm going to use this comment as a jumping off point because most of the comments were rightfully telling me that I was wrong. I'm referring to the video that I made about the New York Times saying that Zohran Mamdani claimed to be African American or checked that when he was filling out college applications, which in the video I defended and said that he is African American because he is from Uganda. A lot of the comments calling me out in the video said loud and wrong, and yes, correct. I am very loud and this case was very wrong. That's why I want to address this comment and say people saying the more they attack him, the more that we like him. I think it's important to acknowledge that while I like him, and I do like him, and while I do still think that the New York Times is garbage and that a lot of people are unfairly smearing him, in this case, that's not the case. Because he did fill that out in his application because he said that it didn't allow for the nuances and the complexities. And he shouldn't have done that, so I shouldn't have been defending it. And I defended it because I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. And really, that's the only thing I can do is tell you guys the truth and say that I was wrong because I didn't know. And my honest reaction and why I didn't make a video about it right away was, I was wrong. No one cares about my excuses to why I was wrong, so I'm just gonna take the L and let people dunk on me. I did not know that being African American was a unique identity to Americans. That like, if you're from Africa, you can't just like say I'm African American if you come to America. I literally, genuinely did not know that. And it's insanely embarrassing that I didn't. I watched some of the stitches starting with CJ's because I think I saw his first because I follow him. And my honest reaction was like, I'm not arguing with it. I'm not saying you guys are wrong. You guys are absolutely right. I'm embarrassed that I didn't already know that. Like, I'm an American. I've been around Black people my whole life. How did I not know that? But I genuinely did not know that. And so I'm sorry for saying that because it was wrong and it was ignorant. And whether I meant it to come across that way or not, it was anti-Black. I was coming at it from the point of view of thinking this was just a typical hack New York Times hit piece where they were getting their sources from a white supremacist. Someone asked why the video was still up. I left it up because I didn't want to make it seem like I was trying to run away from it. One of my mutuals, shout out to Zem. Zem is amazing and I really appreciate them calling me in. Reached out to me and mentioned a video that I did watch to understand why it was what I said was wrong and how it's actually like anti-Black because it's erasing the unique experience of Black Americans. And I'm not dismissing it. I left it up, like I said, because I felt like, oh, wow, I really fucked up. That's embarrassing. And everybody has a right to stitch the video and drag it. I will leave it up if people think I should leave it up for criticism's sake. If you guys want me to take it down, I'm speaking specifically only to Black people right now. I will take it down. I am sorry for that video. It was harmful, it was ignorant, it was anti-Black, and it's spreading misinformation. Something that I don't want to do, and that made me sad. I do not want to be hurting people. I do not want to be spreading misinformation. I do not want to be anti-Black, and I'm not so delusional that I think that I'm above being anti-Black. I am a white person in America. It is impossible, and it would be a lie to say that I'm not going to and or have not done things that were anti-Black. But if that happens, and when that happens, if I do something that is anti-Black, I do want to be corrected. And I do want to say that I'm sorry and I want to learn from it and I want to do better. I do not want to be dismissive or callous in how these kinds of things harm Black people or how it harms Black people when anti-Blackness is ignored within movements. I was also looking up things on ChatGPT and Google because I also didn't want to be asking Black people to educate me. I try in general already not to speak on things that pertain to Black issues because obviously I'm not Black and I don't know what I'm talking about. In this case, I didn't know that I didn't know what I was talking about. And so I didn't look at it as an issue of being a Black issue, which again is like part of the anti-Blackness too, because as somebody rightfully pointed out who was speaking to me about it, my first reaction should have been like, is that true? Did he do that? Why did he do that? Rather than my reaction being immediately like defensive of him and being like, oh, the New York Times is smearing him and they're doing that and all that kind of shit. So going forward, I'm going to try to continue to not speak on issues that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about on. And that obviously pertains to issues concerning Black identity. I always continue to educate myself to do better and to correct myself when I'm wrong. And again, I really appreciate my mutuals who I will tag here so you can follow them too for calling me in. And the people like Lil Lo who I didn't know before who reached out to have a conversation. I fully understand that none of you guys owe that to me. Anyway, sorry that also went on for too long. Just a reminder, if you're white or not Black, please don't come in here and like accept the apology on behalf of Black people or like chalk explain or anything.
What absolutely boggles my mind about Zohran and his most hardcore supporters, somehow they do not understand the racial category African American/Black is used for Black Americans who have been brought here through a systematic oppressive system generations ago called slavery. So this candidate knew that he was not academically competent enough to get into a university like Columbia University. So he has never in his life identified as black or African American. He is running as a South Asian Muslim, which is beautiful because I'm a South Asian Muslim. But because he knew he couldn't get in, he went and identified as another racial category, African American / black, because he wanted to use that as a leg up to get into a college that he knew he did not stand a chance of getting into. And it boggles my mind that this is a population, it's African Americans who have been systematically oppressed, who have had the worst history done to them, who even today are systematically oppressed through a horrible, horrible system. But we have a candidate that's like, I can actually use some of that to be able to use that as a stepping stone to get where I want to go, which is a university that he didn't have a chance of going into otherwise. The thing you have to understand is he is ethnically South Asian. He was born in Uganda, but he is not of African or black ancestry, in the same way that if I was born in China and moved to the United States, I cannot claim that I am Chinese. How do people not understand this? The guy was using this whole category as a stepping stone for himself. Just call it like it is. I love a lot of the things that he talks about, support a lot of the things that he talks about, but you don't have to blindly support every single little detail. If he lied, if he tried to actually use another racial category that wasn't his to be able to like get into something that he didn't deserve, then just call it like it is. Just say it and just say, look, that's okay. I'm looking past that because he has a lot of other beautiful things. Call it like it is.
Ethnicity, race, nationality, they'll never get it. They will never get it. This, to me, is the exact same as South Africans claiming to be African American, which they are. African American does not mean black. It probably just means you were born in Africa, right? You moved to America. Like if I was born in India somehow, and I had to check off nationalities, guess where I would put?
So during a recent interview, Lord Zohran, New York City's favorite comment section communist, was called out for essentially putting himself down as a African American Asian on the census. Now, you may think to yourself, what's the issue with classifying yourself as an African American when you literally were born in Africa and you now live in America? Well, see, here's the thing. That classification is saved for Black Americans. See how that works? So, as an Indian American, there would be another classification for you, not Native American or Indigenous American, but as an Indian man. That's your mama, that's your daddy. There's a section for you right there. Now, I would presume that the reason why you would use such classifications is because you would likely find yourself getting, I don't know, a few more opportunities than the average person for putting down the classification of both African American as well as Asian. But then again, this is just a little assumption on my side. You know, what do we know?
They asked Zohran Mamdani if there's any parades he would be boycotting. And he said there's a lot of parades I will not be attending because he will be focused on New York City. The Veterans Day parade just passed and he was not there. He didn't show up. He wasn't there. You know why? Because he was out there shaking hands with veterans and feeding them, serving them plates, and listening to them and asking them what they felt like needed to be changed to make New York City a better place for them. That's where he was, not at the parades. Being a mayor is more about just flexing the title that you have. This man has not stopped working since he got the title. He has not stopped working from before he had the title. And yet I see so much negative comments about him. Let him cook. Give him a chance.
He went to a Veterans Day event in the Bronx, and here's what he said when he was asked if he was making a statement by skipping the city's Veterans Day parade. I have to be honest with you, I haven't thought all that much about parades. I wanted to ensure that on Veterans Day, I actually got the time to sit down with veterans and hear from them.
Let him cook.
Like this thing right here you just said is very important because I think a lot of African people come to this country, America specifically, they feel so entitled to everything that Black Americans have worked hard to create, all the opportunities, because a lot of Africans don't know that they only get those opportunities because of the color of their skin, because of Black Americans. Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all the amazing historians that fought for them to be able to enjoy the luxuries that they get in this country, right? The comfortability. A lot of Africans do not understand the history of what Black Americans did in this country. They come in and they think they're bigger than the program. And when I try to highlight the fact that you only want to come to America because Black Americans gave you an opportunity to thrive, they did that. So I think this is one of those topic points where I'm like, I hope that more Africans give the fucking respect that Black Americans deserve, because y'all all trying to leave your countries to come here because of Black Americans. I think that's one of the biggest things that pisses me off, is when they talk shit about Black Americans but enjoy the privileges that Black America fought for.
So family, next time someone says New York was built by immigrants, I just want you to smile and say to them, sweetheart, honey, Black Americans built the house, the whole house. Maybe immigrants helped decorate the house. Okay, see you guys in my next video. And if you found this video very interesting, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And of course, support the channel by subscribing to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Make sure to stick around for more juicy news, okay? And stay safe. Bye.